you place your seed. So you'll be dropping your seed one by one by one by one. And then you also just see how your drip points will be. So if you're going to use drip, you can lay your drip on the side and you see where the water drops. If you're using sprinklers, you can measure a stick of which they'll just be putting the potato on each end of the stick. They move it, put the potato on each end of the stick. So at planting, you make lines where your potatoes will be placed, so more like furrows, which will need you to slightly raise, which you need to slightly raise as you bury to avoid water. You are going to cover your seed, so you're able to see how your potatoes are placed. So you do have access to this document. So you do not need to make ridges in advance. Ridges can be made as your potato is germinating and as it is growing. So also place your basal fertilizer in your furrows by broadcasting it. So you broadcast it in a way that you're not really touching your potato tuber. You put it on the side. And if you're using machinery such as a Vicon, if you're using machinery, there's machinery such as the Vicon that helps, with your planting. But in this training, I highly recommend the farmer to place, 10 grams of basil in between the tuber stations. So you don't want any fertilizer on done. You need to apply a soil insecticide such as carbofuran or folate. You could also you can also use something that is called before planting, or you can do it even very key to take note of a tuber to be eaten inside or affect can happen to your potato. So this can be done by broadcasting okay for a hectare. So majority of soils in Zambia are highly infested with nematodes. So you just have to manage that. So just to further protect the crop before covering it, you can also apply copper oxychloride, which is also very key. And you can also use chlorpyrifos, cypermethrin, which you can spray on top of your tuber or your seeds. So when placing the potato seeds, make sure the sprouted part faces upwards. This will allow the seed to give you a fast germination. So it will, as shown in the image, so there is an image there. So just take note of what we've listed. So what you need to do is just go through these notes again so that you can have a better understanding. So when growing potatoes, a farmer needs to know that water is everything to potatoes and you cannot do without water. So with this climate change, it is wise as a farmer who wants to grow big into potato farming, you need to set up irrigation. A lot of the Chirundu farmers are actually doing it rain-fed. I mean, it is doable, but you need to manage risk, and risk management is actually a component which I did not highly emphasize. Risk is everything. Risk management is everything. You need to ensure you manage your risk. So having water is just key, especially if you're going to plan on doing it rain-fed, which you can do. But just ensure you set up irrigation so that you are not caught off guard in times of a drought or when there's no rain or anything of that sort. So as soon as the planting is done, ensure that your crop is watered to give it moisture. so that you do not cook your potato in the ground. So when you do not water, your potato can actually rot. Or if you just have a bit of water, moisture, you find it starts rotting in there. So water management is actually the biggest key in this. So make sure that you do have water. So there are two types of irrigation that can be implemented. One is overhead irrigation. So you can actually go in with rain hose. You can actually think of doing overhead sprinklers. You can also think of microjets. You can also go in with drip irrigation. So those are the ones that you can go in with. So don't feel too limited, and also just see what your budget allows as the farmer in question. So another thing is you have to water for 3 to 4 hours, although, if you're doing overhead, you don't overwater because you also makes a soil pan, and you don't want to have a hard pan. And you also don't want a situation where your drip is quite ideal because it drips right at the point. It's just good in terms of managing disease. So this type of irrigation system is quite ideal for what you want. Alternatively, you can interchange a mix of both. You do drip and overhead irrigation. So after planting, supply 3 liters of water per stage. Water is achieved by watering for 1 hour. So as the crop germinates, it is still at a vegetative stage. So at around 3 weeks, you have to increase the amount of water to about 6 liters per station. So this will also depend on how you're irrigating, your pump size, the yield of your borehole, or whatever you're trying to do. But really, you need about 6 liters per station, meaning you also have to increase your watering hours as your crop grows, as your tubers are forming. They'll need more water so that they grow very well. So as the crop approaches reproduction stage, such as flowering, you will require more water. So you have to increase your water. So your flowers are very important. Again, if you go in a lot with a lot of overhead irrigation, you find yourself in a situation where you're now dropping your flowers, and you don't want to drop your flowers because flowers help in the production of your food. So the food being the tuber, being the potato itself. So at this stage, we require about 9 liters of water per station. So the demand of water is more at reproduction stage, but as it matures, again, you need to reduce the amount of water being given. So you go back to about 2 hours of water, meaning you'll be giving your crop about 6 liters of water. So in the last 2 weeks. So there is a graph that just shows how much water. Let me just, sorry, the arrow was running. So it just kind of shows you, sorry about that. Let me just drag this down nicely. It kind of just shows you how much water your plant will need in terms of liters. So there is a graph at each stage, and the amounts of water and the liters of water. So formulating of your spray program and spray plans. So potatoes are highly affected by diseases. So it's important that you have an aggressive spray program to prevent disease from attacking your potatoes. So when you're formulating a spray program, you need to know that you need to have a buffer. So buffer is what buffers your water. So you're controlling the pH of your water, where your doesn't work very well in you're not supposed to use copper. You're not supposed to use copper if you're going to buffer your water.
It's cutting.
Can't hear anything.
Okay, let me just come out and then log back in.
Oh, Mr. Crawford, kindly turn off your camera.
Clara, kindly turn off your camera. Clara, your camera is on.
Okay, I hope I am audible enough now. So yes, when formulating a spray program, we have a buffer. Buffer controls the pH of the water, so that's key. If you're going to use a buffer, you do not use a fungicide called copper. So if you're going to use copper, you're not going to buffer your water because these two are not compatible. However, you need to have a sticker because if it's the rain season, you need your chemical to stick on the plant. Even if it's not on the rain season, you need it to still stick on the plant. Then you also need your insecticide. So look at compatibility of all of these. So when you're purchasing, look at compatibility of all of these, look at the active ingredients. So what you also need to know, we have preventative sprays, we have curative sprays. So what we're trying to do is prevent diseases. So you ask, growing potatoes, I need something that is preventative, and even the pressure of how much you spray. So off season where you don't have a lot of diseases, you do your spray program once a week to twice a week. Really just depends. During the rain season, sometimes because it's washed off, you need to go in 3 times. Maybe the rains came, you have to go in with your crop protection even 3 times. However, you have to interchange your chemicals. You can't use the same things week in, week out. You have to, if you so what you do is get different active ingredients. So for example, maybe you're trying to prevent red spider. This week you started abamectin. Next week you can go in with chlorpyrifos. So do a thing where you're interchanging your chemicals so that you don't have what is called resistance. Because when you have resistance, the chemical stops working and your crop is affected. Because now it's not working, the disease will just continue prevailing. You can do curative, but if you're trying to cure a disease like blight, you lose your field. You've got an issue of red spider. It wipes out your entire in a week, and to look like someone came and sprayed your field. So just manage these, manage your blight. Blight is also quite difficult to manage. And if it's very severe, you just lose your crop. I've seen potato farmers lose an entire crop because of poor crop protection and just general management. So brownie and black patches will concentrate, like, so for early blight, you see a concentrate ring pattern on the older leaves, and they develop rapidly, especially during the rainy season. So observe your leaves, do scouting, scout for diseases, scout for pests, send someone into the field, check the bottom of the leaves. What you can do, you can even buy a magnifying glass. I have a magnifying glass. You just check the leaf. You pull a leaf, check. You go in the field. So with how you do your fields, if you have a diseased field, do not go into the new field from the old field. Start with the undiseased crop and enter into the diseased one. If you have a situation where you need to go into the other field, you have to change all your clothes. Change everything, your boots, everything that you're going to wear. If you have workers, ensure that, you know how sometimes in the fields workers are chatting, this one goes this side, they sit this side. The worker was with the chitenge in the disease field, they come in this other field, they drop that chitenge on the ground, they're spreading the disease. So do manage your diseases in a way that you don't have people crossing over. If people are working this side, they work this side. And even you as the owner, if you have people coming onto your farm, don't directly take them to the field, especially if this is someone who has a field. A neighbor can come, they have things like a powdery disease, they have pests, they come into your field. So don't be allowing people into your fields. Then we also have leaf spots, so you just see dots around. So this is also quite easy to identify. Powdery mildew, you see powder on the leaves. So these are diseases which can be very stubborn. So control your diseases, prevent them rather. Then we have blackleg. So the rot starts at the base of the stem, which later affects the tubers. Then we have fusarium rot. You literally see your tuber actually rotting. So these are some things that you're going to be noticing. So just notice what is going on the plant, on the leaves. So with common insects, we have aphids. Aphids can also be very destructive. So whoever is spraying needs to concentrate on how they're spraying, even the spraying technique, even the mixing of the crop protection needs to be done well. So just ensure that as you are doing this, do a bit of research on chemicals, visit different agro dealers. Some people will say, no, buy this chemical because it's from here. When I tell you, there's a lot to do with technique of spray more than anything. So after that, there's also leaf miner. Leaf miner is also quite destructive. We also have the potato tuber moth. Let me just go up. My apologies. We We also have the tuber moth, which is also quite destructive. Then we have the white grub, so that there's even an image of it. These are some of the pests that are in your potato fields. So to start with, you need to know that your spraying begins once the crop has about 90% germination has taken place. So this is around 2 weeks. So you will need to spray the fungicides in an interval of 3 to 7 days. So you can do your spray program. You can even create where you say, okay, I will be spraying twice a week, Monday and Friday. So just see what works best for you and see what you can really work around with. So if you're using overhead, you need to have, you can use an interval of 4 to 7 days. But really, one thing that I recommend, prevention is better than cure. If you can do it twice, once, it just also goes with, how you're able to plan around that. But when change to 3 days intervals, and if you're doing overhead irrigation, 7 days is maximum overhead or rain season. So there is a table which has different chemicals that you can get. Sorry, just a moment. My mouse is just moving quite fast. To achieve a high yield, it's also crucial to ensure that your potato crop receives adequate fertilizer at all stages. So this includes your basal at planting and your top dressing and foliar fertilizers. So these are very critical. So at germination, when tuber initiation occurs, this is the reason why we need a basal which has a higher phosphorus content, so that our crops can grow with vigor and have a good root system and well prepared for a good tuber development. Providing the crop with sufficient water is also essential to maintain cool, moist conditions. So avoid high nitrogen fertilizers. So for example, you would need to avoid things like urea, because this leads to a lot of, rapid rotting of your potato at harvest. So even with onion, it's the same thing. Don't use a lot of fertilizers that have a lot of urea. So good fertilizers that you can also apply, your top 24. These are good dressings that you can apply on your potatoes. So we'll also go into that in a bit more detail. So additionally, applying your fungicides and insecticides is vital to prevent disease and pest manifestation. So just ensure you have all of this, your regular scouting, that is key. And then even good practices like crop rotation. So after that, potato is part of the Solanaceae family. So this belongs in, we have tomato there, we have peppers there. So try and interchange it with things like beans. You can interchange it with things like cabbage, maize, so that, you break the cycle of pests and diseases. I'm telling you, if you had nematodes in your tomato field, then you would now go in with potato. You will face a challenge. So again, at harvest, you also notice you start to notice that your leaves are yellowing, and then you'll be able to see, okay, at this point you need to reduce your irrigation. And then another important practice is the at about your third week. at about your 3rd week, this is when you're going to start
I'm not hearing anything.
Same. I think we've lost her.
We've lost
Okay,
her.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so what is key, like I had mentioned, so at your